we'll start with Jorge Masvidal. He's not been doing a ton of interviews, but I know he spoke to MMA Junkie and ESPN, and he's been sort of figuring out where to go since losing to Kamaru Usman. It was a rematch that no one really asked for exactly. There was some interest in it, but he lost badly in his home state, so it's not clear where he goes. So he was asked about Nick Diaz, Brian Campbell, and here's what he said. If Nick looks good and does his job, why not me and Nick? I'd love to fight Nick. It's a classic fight. It's a fight that I always wanted to do since I was at Strikeforce at 155 pounds. I was like, man, that's a dude I would like to fight. Nothing personal, just because of his style, the way he leaves it all out there. If I get a fight with Nick, it'll be a blessing. BC, level of interest in Masvidal versus Diaz, but the Nick variety, not the Nate.
I got to be honest with you. My level of interest in Masvidal in general right now is low, and it's not a grudge against him, but it's for those things you mentioned. He got into a big fight that no one called for, that he didn't deserve, and he got sent to hell. And it's not that I hold that against him, Luke, but let's remember, this guy was certainly not an accidental superstar, but what he did in 2019 was something none of us would have ever seen coming. And he was the superstar we needed at that moment. He was fighter of the year. He was, must see in every interview and every fight. It was always going to be hard at his age, he's 36, to build upon that, to keep up with that. And, I think he got as high and as far as he could. I mean, he headlined a freaking pay-per-view for a fake belt against a Diaz brother, forcing Canelo Alvarez to sit down on a couch and wait. That's awesome. That's incredible. What he's done since then, he hasn't been consistent. And look, the thing that made that turnaround so special was the level of activity. Sure, it was all the things that led to it, right? The reality show, sitting in the woods, the realization that he's probably better than he's performed, that he needs to start baptizing people and not care anymore. All that stuff's great, right? But it was the activity level, the consistency that kept him fresh and dangerous. He got to the point where we were putting him in the top 10 pound for pound at a time that we just didn't ever think that was possible. Since then, he just hasn't been active, and he's lost in big moments. So I got to give him this credit. Calling out Nick Diaz, even though it's a little ahead of schedule because Nick hasn't returned yet soon, but hasn't returned yet and shown that he's still a thing from that long layoff. This is the right lane for Jorge moving forward. But it's the right lane if you're in the same thought process that I am, Luke, that it's kind of all downhill from here for Jorge. I don't think he's ever going to fight for a title again. I don't think he's ever going to be in that spot. I do think there's life left for his brand if he can revive it, and this is the right way to revive it. Stay in this BMF category, get into Trash Talk Warriors, get into fights that are expected to be brawls against past their prime opponents, where he can dip a little bit back into that, whatever's left of that resurgent spirit, and get some big wins that can keep him a celebrity fighter. He may be the most elite celebrity fighter for all we know, but I think he's in that lane, Luke, and I don't think it's disrespectful to say that.
I don't think it's disrespectful to say that either, although, can you hear my neighbor mowing his lawn right outside my window? I'm pretty happy that he decided to mow the lawn right on the morning of MK, but okay, what are you going to do? In answering the point about this, I'm not nearly as down on the Masvidal experiment as you. I understand why folks might feel the way you do. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But I got to say, I still think he has a great ability to deliver on what made Masvidal such a star in that run from the Askren fight on. There's a limit to who he can beat, but Nick Diaz, listen, it's not like Masvidal is saying, I'm going to get right back to that title and blah, 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 blah. You hear what he's saying. You don't even hear anything like that. He kind of realizes that window is probably closed, if not for now, maybe ever. But there's another window, which is what are some big-name fighters with some big-name fights that are action-oriented that would generate sales? And to what extent can I still participate in that? And obviously, I think he's still very much a big player in that one. I got to say, I think the Nick Diaz one, obviously he has business with Robbie Lawler, so he'll attend to that. But if Nick wins that one, I got to tell you, I actually really like that idea. Listen, neither Diaz brother, I think I checked this morning, neither Diaz brother, obviously Nick wouldn't be, but even Nate is not ranked. I believe this is right. I got to double check there. They might dead wrong me, but I'm looking at lightweight. I don't see Nate Diaz. I'm looking at welterweight. I don't see Nate Diaz. They're not ranked. It's not like if Jorge took that fight, he's taking up anyone else's space or he's trying to get back in the line and other fighters who haven't had a chance can't break through yet. He's completely stepping away from that. Not completely, but he's not getting in the way and creating a bottleneck at the top of welterweight. So I actually feel like it's a great call. Now, the one that gets a little bit weird, BC, is he was asked about the Paul brothers. Quote, "I'm going to beat up the Pauls," Masvidal told ESPN. "If they put money in my pocket, that Logan dude, Jake Paul, whoever Paul dudes, if they put money in my pocket, of course I'd like to break some Disney characters' faces. I've been fighting men who have been training since 7 or 8 years old to do the same thing as me and what I want to do to them. Fighting guys like the Pauls is a bonus. UFC would have to sign off, but nothing is impossible. Dana doesn't like those guys, and Dana knows I'll go in there and put a hurting on those kids. Maybe he does send in the fucking assassin." BC, what is the chance that they make a Masvidal versus, let's say, Jake Paul fight, because that seems a little bit more doable, under the condition that Dana is doing it because he wants Jorge to go fuck those guys up?
Oh, that is low. I said it before, I mean it. For UFC and Dana to get involved in a co-promotional setup, specifically Jake Paul, because we both believe he's the more serious brother of the two. I mean, look, he'd have to go on a spree of knockouts. He would have had to have knocked out Tyron Woodley and then go on a spree of escalating knockouts in which his pay-per-view sales are rapidly rising as he's kind of burying, Randy Orton Legends Tour WWE style, one big name after another, until Dana's like, F it, let's get our most marketable guy, we'll end it. That's a dream scenario. So I like these comments. Not the Paul brothers comment. I don't like that from Jorge. To me, that's a little bit of a yawn. But I like the comments about seeking big fights against big names better than the comments from Jorge a couple weeks ago of any fight that gets me back into the title picture. And it's rare. I understand that it's weird, Luke. It's weird for me to be damning a guy for potentially saying I want to do the right thing and get in line. And, I just don't think that's the right lane for him anymore. As I said, is the Paul brother a right lane for him? I think he's going to have a choice to make, Luke. I don't know the exact setup of his contract at the moment. We rarely ever do, but I think he's got to look, what is his big super fight left? Super fight left. If it's Conor McGregor, then the Paul brothers are not a thing, and what he needs to do is stay in the UFC and stay active, winning big fights in sort of the BMF brawler category. And to your point before about not stealing anyone's place, he's not. There's always been a category unofficially in UFC for attraction-based fighters who are outside. It's rare that we get somebody that fills that role, but it's always been there. Unless he's putting all his money in the basket of a Paul fight to cash out with, and waiting for his contract to be over and looking to stay as active as possible to get that contract to be over, I still think his big money fight is an aging washed Conor, Luke. And I think that's the ultimate BMF fight you can make in sort of this category. And if he goes in that direction, I think that's the best way to get people like me who are kind of in this, ho-hum Jorge mode out of that. Because, Luke, it didn't bother me as much, but a lot of people did turn against Jorge when, for his surprising political lean and very aggressive nature in that regard. And then, he got into outside the cage stuff, like promoting this promotion. And it's like, it's okay, it's cool, but like we kind of have a lot of those promotions going on that people care about at varying levels. I want to see a dialed in Jorge who still wants to make big fun fights and big fun press conference moments and big fun all that. If he's going to stay in that lane, that's great. I don't think the Paul brothers are going to get into that with him, Luke, unless that's his specific stated goal, like a Tyron Woodley, to be cashing out at the end.
That's fair. I would say that, I don't know what the UFC wants to do, and they don't have any need to be in the Jake Paul business, but if you wanted to be, co-opting them would be obviously the strongest move, which they don't appear to be interested in. I will tell you that the Conor Masvidal fight, don't like that fight for Conor. I think Masvidal would do terrible things to him.
Right.
If I was in his team, I would strongly caution against that.
But isn't that his money fight, Luke? Isn't that Jorge's money fight? And soon, Conor could be out of options for the type of super fight where he has a B-side who will talk with him and can make us really, really care after his level of ability has vanished. Now, he's not there yet. You and I both believe Conor can still... True, let's be honest here. You and I, Luke Thomas and BC, both believe that Conor has one more big win left in him that will semi-revive. Again, I compared it to Chuck Liddell in the midst of that losing streak, beating Vanderlei in that war, and we're like, oh man, Chuck still got it. Like, there's one more of those for Conor, correct?
For sure.
Okay, so we're not there yet. We're not going to be there yet until we see, we're close, but we're not there yet. When we're there, Look, Conor also has the Diaz trilogy as a lottery ticket to cash out as well. I think he's going to cash that out sooner than later, but I think Conor's still that big fight for Jorge. And even though I agree with you that as their abilities stand now, and maybe forever, but we don't know, yeah, that's a Masvidal win written all over it. But Conor may get desperate enough, Luke, where that's the type of fight he just needs to still get himself amped up to want to keep doing this at this level.